Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and today it is time for my monthly palette ranking where I rank every single eyeshadow palette that I use this entire month of December. This is the most palettes I think I've ever had in a monthly ranking. I've got 26 today, which means I used a different eyeshadow palette almost every day of the month. That's not super unusual. In December, I have more time off work being a teacher for the holiday, and I like to play with my collection more when I have more time to be creative and expressive. So we're gonna stack up some of the new things in my collection with some of the older things and see what came out on top, what was the best this month. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. I upload videos twice a week. It is totally free to subscribe, and I would love to see you back again on the channel. I am in the midst of filming my entire eyeshadow palette collection. I'm also going to rank every single eyeshadow palette I used this year, so all of my monthly rankings combined into one 2023 ranking. And yeah, just eyeshadow palettes, lots of eyeshadow palette content. And let's go ahead and get into the palettes. So none of these palettes were like so bad that I'm like, ew, get it out of my collection. Let me preface with that. But the lowest one was the Too Faced Chocolate Bar. Pulled this out just as kind of like a throwback to play with. Still love these tins that they did. It's still scented, but it's more of a chemically spent than it is the chocolate now. These are just really dusty now, I find. And the metallics were really crumbly when I used it. That could just be that the formula has changed some over the life of the palette because, I mean, let's face it, this thing is years and years old. But this was the bottom this month. Next up in 25 was another Too Faced eyeshadow palette, the Pumpkin Spice palette. Now the mattes were much better in this one, superior to the chocolate, and again the tin I love. The mattes actually really light. The shimmers were still pretty subpar. They weren't crumbly like in the other palette, they just weren't very effective, you know, not very glitzy, shimmery. They were just kind of with a glitter glue, maybe they'd pop a little bit more, but even then, nothing super special shimmer wise, so it was more of a formula thing. I like the color story. In 24 from Game Beauty, this is their Fantasy palette, and I love this format, these little foldable style palettes they have. I have all of them but the Cyberpunk. The artwork is incredible. I wish they would do more of this format. And this one I didn't dislike. It's just very blue. I say as I'm wearing a blue eyeshadow look and with blue hair, but I don't normally go for blue. This is more like an indigo purpley blue in my mind, and this is more of a dusty blue. I don't know, it's about the undertones. I didn't dislike this one. It just like, as much as I like this format of palette, I feel like the formula isn't the most impressive. The more pastel shades just didn't show up that much on my skin tone. The shimmers were okay, but again, they really needed a glitter primer to do any sort of effectiveness. They were just kind of lackluster without that, so that's why this one's ranked there. And number 24 from Lunar Beauty, the 12 Days of Lunar. This is the advent calendar that they came out with last year, and it's just a color story thing. It was kind of boring. I mean, I only used it once, but I was just kind of not impressed by the color story. It doesn't feel original. The formula's great. The shimmers are really nice. Sorry if you hear the rattling. My cat Salem is having the time of his life in the corner here. But yeah, it was just more of the other color stories I used this month were more interesting than this one. Next up from Laura Lee Los Angeles, the Whimsical Nudes palette. Kind of the same story as the Lunar Beauty one as far as the color story just not being super interesting. This one I did rank higher though because I do really like these green olivey tones. That created a little more interest for me versus the other one was a bit hodgepodge, if I'm being honest, and just kind of all over the place. It's just my personal opinion. I don't like hate the palette. That's just how I felt this month. Next up from Glamlight. Oh, this big guy. This is the Ice Cream palette, the Ice Cream Dream palette. And I did a very pinky look with this one and liked it a lot. And a lot of the pastels in this one, I have criticized it as they like don't show up, and that's been the case for like some of the blues and purples, but the pinks actually had no problem with whatsoever them showing up, and the shimmers were nice. So yeah, this one got ranked a little bit higher this month than it has, I think, some other times I've used it this year. Next up from BH Cosmetics, the Avocado Toast. This one is still available on their site, you guys. It looks like this. And yeah, I just did something very green with this one. Go figure, right? It's really nice. It's just not as special as the other palettes. I have a lot of indie palettes. I have a lot of shifty things that I love. I have a lot of textured shimmers and formulas I adore. This one is not bad. It's just okay. It's kind of middle of the road for me. Next up from Nomad, the Whistler Snow Lodge. And this one gets a step higher. I mean, the packaging, first of all, I just feel like is done better. It's got a duochrome in it, and there's just a lot of options here. I did something more like berry, smoky with the palette this particular month when I used it. I love this green rose so much when I've used that in the past. And yeah, you cannot get this one anymore, I don't think, from Nomad, but if you have it, this is your reminder to bring it out, especially if you live in a place like where I am, and it's just now getting snowy, even though it's been kind of winter a bit. It's time for the icy blue moment weather-wise, so bring it out. Next up from Unearthly Cosmetics, the In the Dark palette. Now I'm gonna be honest, this one did not knock my socks off. It's rated higher just because the formula is really, really nice, but the color story I did not enjoy as much as I thought I would, just because they're kind of all mid-tone mattes, and then there's two shimmers. So when I did this one, I used shadows. This one I used preternatural, I don't know what that means, and numinous, those three shades. But I just found it kind of hard to use as a standalone because the mattes were all dark and mid-tone and there wasn't anything light. Now, is that a huge deal for me to reach into something else? Absolutely not. But as a standalone palette, I didn't feel like I could rank it any higher because I just felt like I struggled with the color story on its own. But the formula was still good of the mattes and the shimmers, so I did want to at least acknowledge that and rank it higher than the bottom. But from Melt Cosmetics, the Gemini palette, the original Gemini palette. I did this when Wes and I went out to dinner with our friends, and we were kind of celebrating like our 2-year anniversary of being engaged, and I did something more neutral. I kind of avoided the greenies. It was more like neutral smoky. This one's a good one. I have never had issues with the formula of this particular Melt palette, like going bad or getting weird textures on the shimmers or anything. That one's really nice. And yeah, I don't know. I like the undertones and the grunginess of it color story wise, but the formula of other stuff is a little bit better, so that's why it kind of landed in the middle for me this month. So from Ace Beauté, the Aura palette. This one's new to my collection, although it's been out for a while. It is limited edition, but I believe it is still available from their site, and they are running a spend more, save more sale right now if you're interested. Here it is. I did something that was kind of like purple and brown with this palette, and I did a little bit of this hazy too, this like murky color, and I really liked that color combination. It was very nice. Ace Beauté is really a nice brand, and I like it a lot. I feel like there are inconsistencies between their palettes. Like, I know they changed their formula, but even in their new palettes, there's another palette that I tried that's in this ranking too that I ranked a little bit higher, and I'll talk more about that when we get to it, but I love a purple eyeshadow. Next up from Gimme Glow, the Sweet and Sticky palette. Pulled this one out to do some neutral glam. Love this shade as a highlighter so much. This one works really well as bronzer on me as well, so I love this just as a hurry up, get out the door, you know, something to deepen out the outer corner, something to put in the crease, maybe even this, a shimmer on the lid, a little bronzer there, a highlight. You just need blush and you're good to go. So this is just super simple, and the fact that the pans are big makes it so that you can stick in like a face brush if you're wanting to go that route like I like to do. And yeah, the formula just on the shimmers is spectacular, so smooth, so molten reflective, like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like liquid metal. I think that's what I'm trying to say with these. It's really nice from Gimme Glow. Okay, here's the other Adept palette that I was saying ranked higher, the Oceanic palette, and I just felt like the mattes were different in this one. They weren't like better or worse, I'm not saying that, but I feel like in the Aura palette they were thinner and I had to like build them up more to get full opacity, versus these were very opaque right off the get-go. So I'm not saying one's better than the other, it's just surprising me that I felt like I had to do different things to work with the same brand's formula unless they have two different formulas, which is kind of weird to me. The shimmers seem the same, I think, in both palettes. The mattes were a little different. I did something that was kind of more of like a greeny blue, not like a totally blue with this one, but I like the murkiness of this one. I didn't get it for a long time because I thought it was just too blue, but now that I have it, and after looking at it for a while, that's why I bought it, it's really got some nice green undertones that I don't think it's too true blue. All right, next up from Unearthly Cosmetics, I used the Dead of Night palette this month, and I like this one a lot better than the other In the Dark Unearthly palette that was ranked lower. Maybe it's just because it has more shades, but no, you know, it does have more of a light to dark. Like this is really a lighter shade, and so is this one. Those are both lighter, but then you do have the depth, and I love a gray shadow that's done well. This one's got sparkles in it, and I used Star, this really nice pink to blue duochrome. So this one I just felt like the color story was more well done. Again, it wasn't a formula issue with the other one. There were just so many mid and deep tones that I like a light to dark color story so that I can get the depth and the lightness that I like, kind of like in the look I'm wearing today. By the way, I'm filming this January 1st, so the eyeshadow palette I'm wearing today is the Rogue palette by Fantasy Cosmetica, but that's not in this ranking because it's January, so that'll be in next month's, and if you're curious about anything else I'm wearing, it'll be listed in the description. All right, next up from Jaclyn Cosmetics, I will leave linked the video I posted about recommendations I have from their brand that are 50% off at Ulta right now. This is one of them. I wore this on New Year's Eve, and holy moly, this silver that I used in that look, that's what really made this go as high as it did. The mattes blend themselves, very, very creamy and easy to use. I do think these shimmers need a glitter primer to really pop, otherwise they're a little lackluster, but I was very impressed with it. And it's one of those palettes that, depending on how you layer and what you pair it with, it can change the look of it. Like, because my hair is got blue tips right now, like, my dad was telling me he thought the silver looked kind of blue. Like, it can pull out different colors of different things, which I think that's always a fun type of shadow to play with when they have versatility to shift and transform different looks depending on what you pair it with. So yeah, for half off especially, this one's really nice. Next up from Oden's Eye, the Norns palette. Now I have the original one before they reformulated, did the different pan shapes, whatever, but I agree with what a lot of people say, which is this bottom row of shimmers just steals the show. I used Glamour, which is this kind of like orangey one, but it's like orange and gold and yellow all at the same time. Super, super nice, and just a unique color story, right? Like, how many times do you see this color story? Very, very good for, I think, if you're somebody that has like your creative juices get flowing with color stories. Some people might see challenging, but you're like, ooh, I can just see some unique combinations. And this one, formula-wise, I think is where Oden's Eye really started stepping it up. And so, yeah, it's still ranked fairly high out of all these palettes all this time later. I really want the stone and gem ones. Those I don't have yet from Oden's Eye. So those are on my wish list currently. All right, we're down to the top 10 now, you guys. In number 10 from Unearthly Cosmetics, the Weirdos palette. This is not the original cover, but some of them came back and I snagged it. Again, an unusual color story in some regards, but I really like color stories like this. They're just kind of murky and with a twist. This Glamour shade that's like kind of looks red plummy. It also shifts green. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe if I show you this way in the mirror, yeah, you can see a little bit the shifts of this shade up here, how it is, but like very shifty, very cool. Feather is a really amazing multi-chrome, and I even did a look that was kind of Christmassy with snakes and dangerous type, the red and the green in here, and wore that to work one week for Spirit Week when we were celebrating Christmassy things. I'm a teacher in a public school if you are new or didn't know, so yeah, so much versatility with this one. Now, as much as I love that one, it could not dethrone a longtime favorite in number 9, the BH Cosmetics Blueberry Muffin palette, and I just love the cool tones in this one, and I just can't get rid of the hold this one has on me, and the shimmers are immaculate. I've got some serious divots in some of these shimmers, like to the point where I'm like, how close am I to hitting pan in some of these shades? Truly, because I use it a lot. I really do. I love this one. I keep going back to it. I don't think you can get it anymore, which is so sad, but I think this is top tier. Probably if I ranked my BH Cosmetics palettes, the best one I have from them. I think everything from here forward just has some multi-chromes and special shifty shades that this one doesn't, and that's why I didn't rank it higher. Right, next up we've got the 4 Christmas palettes from Oden's Eye. The lowest one I ranked was the Snow Dream. This one I wore on Christmas Eve, and so I did like the green and red situation, and it wasn't bad by any means. Truly, like, I enjoyed it just fine, but it was that, just fine. I do really like the shimmers, the texture of the shimmers, so that gave it a leg up. Even though a lot of the shimmers aren't shifty, there is one holochrome in this that I kind of like dusted over the look I did in this. I'll leave my 4 looks that I posted with this collection linked if you are interested. But yeah, I don't know, it just wasn't, it did knock my socks off compared to the other ones. It was the lowest out of the 4. In third from that set of 4 from Oden's Eye was the Hey Reindeer, which I really liked. I did kind of more of a berry look with this one, like purpley with wreath. Not really a Christmas story at all in my mind, but I did like this one much more than I thought, and I really want to use Candy Canes. It's screaming my name. I haven't used that shade yet. It looks so cool. It's like gold, but peach, but pink. It's so unique and kind of hard to describe. So that one is next. Then there's the ones you cannot get anymore. Apologize for that, but the Merry Christmas palette. This one, it's just classic Christmas, and I like that there's Elf Wish and Best Wish, more of these like limey greens, and it's not just like the traditional regular primary colors. I do enjoy a twist, and I feel like this is a Christmas with a little bit of a twist, and that's fun. In place number 5 and the top of all 4 of the Oden's Eye Christmas palettes for me was the Christmas Eve palette. Again, I think I'm just really into cool tones lately. I loved the look I did with this one, and like just like snowflakes, some of the textures of some of these shimmers. I'm hoping you can see what I'm talking about when I say the textures. I'm not saying textured in a bad way. I love it when a shadow is not too smooth and it has a little bit of a texture to it. I think it looks so reflective and pretty. This one with this hair now, oh, we're gonna have to do this one again in January because that's gonna be a moment. In number 4 from Unearthly Cosmetics, the collab with Heather Austin, Resurgence. I didn't get this one for a while because I wasn't sure about the color story. I'm not gonna lie, but it went on sale, I think for like 40% off at one point, and I was like, okay, now's my moment, and I got the whole collection. Let me tell you, I would have regretted it. On Christmas Day, I did Ancient and Regeneration, which I think is just like, again, a fun, could be Christmas, but with a little bit of a twist. I love Cerambus. I don't know how to say this, you guys, but this like dusty purpley one. Life looks white, but it's a really fun shimmer shade that has like a lot of pink to it. Just kind of unexpected and so fun. I am super glad to have this one, and like I said, it's kind of up there with it being number 4 for the month. We'll see where it ends up in the year's ranking. The top 3 may not be surprising to you if you've watched my channel here. If you want to pause and take your guesses in the comments, what do you think my top 3 are? Even if you just guessed the brand, what do you think my top 3 are? I didn't film with any of these this month. That's your hint. So number 3 from Ensley Rain Cosmetics, the Flower Moon palette. There are 3 palettes now I really want from this brand. I really want the Harvest Moon one, the Enchanted, what's it called? Enchanted something. It's like really blue and iridescent and pastel looking. And the Cold Moon, the cool tone one. I really want those 3, but this brand is pretty pricey. Now, hear me out. I do think it's worth the price. They have so many special shades that they pack into their palettes. I understand the price point. I'm not saying like it's too much or that they shouldn't be charging that for. I'm just saying like I have to pace myself because that's a lot for me, especially like on a teacher's salary, you know what I'm saying? So I will be getting more from that brand when I'm able to. For now, I am enjoying the things I do have from the brand. They're great with other stuff too, guys. Like the lip gloss that they have is my favorite lip gloss formula I've ever tried. Let me know in the comments too, guys. I've been tossing around the idea of ranking the other makeup I use. So doing still my monthly palette rankings, but doing like a video where I rank all the other makeup I use for the month, whether that's a foundation or lipstick or concealer or blush. I've seen Angelica Nickvis do something like that. I mean, she ranks the palettes in with it, but I feel like you guys like the separate palette videos. What would you think if I did a monthly, like ranking all the makeup I use that was like one separate of the palettes, and then I'd still do the palettes? Would you watch that? Would you be interested? Let me know your honest opinion, because I never want to film anything that you guys aren't interested in. Like, I can play with stuff on my own time and do what I want and just not film it for you if you're not interested. But let's get back to the palettes. Sorry, that was a little side tangent, but I've just been thinking about it and wanted to get your guys' thoughts. In number 2 from Adept Cosmetics, the Seahorse palette. Oh, you guys, okay. Isn't this stunning? Isn't she gorgeous? She's expensive, I'm not gonna lie, but again, we have these textures like the shade Giraffe. I die. It's so good, you guys. It's so good. There are some that are smoother, and I am not as big of a fan of the smooth formula, I'll be honest, but I don't dislike it. I like the more textured, kind of chunky. I say that in a good way, but yeah, this one's just so fun. It's in a completely all shimmer palette. So to me, it is a companion palette, and I think that's ultimately why it's not number 1 for me, but it's very high up because it's just gorgeous, and it can make any look just go from okay or plain to wow, what are you wearing? And number 1 for the month of December, and number 1 for several months this year, honestly. We'll see where it lands in the year's ranking with everything else. But from Ensley Rain, the Midwinter Dream. I just love this color story so much, and I know I don't shut up about it, but here we are again. It's wonderful. If you have this, guys, take this out of your collection. I think Snow Nymph, this gold, is probably my most used shade in this palette, with a close up being Scotty, this purple. I love to pair those together. It's just so good. It's so good, you guys. And these iridescent, I think you can see they're blue and green. Sometimes they kind of just look white, but holy smokes. This is the first palette I ever bought from the brand, and I was like, I'm sorry, who is this brand? What else do you have? Immediately got my attention, and they're quickly growing so fast if you have not tried anything from them, because they are just that stinking good. So yeah, guys, those were all 26 palettes I used in the month of December. Let me know what you've been using December. Have you tried any of the palettes that I use? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Thank you so much if you made it all the way to the end of the video, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye!